A lot of this podcast is about filling our cups. And well, boy, do I have a new way to fill your cup, this time with plant based milk. So, Almond Cow is a product that I was introduced to recently, and I couldn't be more excited to be collaborating with them. Almond Cow makes the experience of making plant based milk at home simple and fun. There's no straining involved, and it takes less than a minute. It's an awesome little machine that, for me, helps me make milk at home budget friendly, and healthy. And as I focus more on being my best, filling my own cup, Almond Cow is one of the first things I think of each day. So, want to try it for yourself? Almond Cow is offering a special code for you that gives you $25 off your purchase of $200 or more. You can shop at almondcow.co, that's co, not com, and use code YourGoodNews at checkout. Hi, and welcome to the Your Good News podcast with me, your host, Katherine Getty. Each Thursday, I'll give you the scoop on the good news coming out of Washington and how you can get involved with this thing called democracy. Welcome back to another episode of the Your Good News podcast. 25 days. That's how many days are left until the U.S. midterm elections if you're listening in real time on October 13th. And it's honestly hard to believe that it's less than a month away. We will, in less than a month, know as a country who will be in control of the House and the Senate, and across the country, many local races as well. Each election, you'll hear the pundits bemoan or gleefully announce that this is the most important election of our lifetimes. And honestly, it has felt different in the last few years, for sure. But I think we also need to not buy into the idea that government is the only source of good. And I know this podcast is about good, and I believe strongly that government is an area of good and can be and should be an important feature for many. But at the end of the day, the government is a reflection of our people and of our values, or in my opinion, it should be. We need to look at the candidates and weigh out our values of their policy proposals. We need to measure out how they view their counterpart on the other side of the aisle. We as a country tend to be in the middle. Do we vehemently have policy differences? Yes, and we should. Our country was built on the idea that we should and can be different. This election that will happen in less than 25 days is important, and do not get me wrong on that. Please don't forget to vote. But I also think we need not name call or denigrate the other side. So this is kind of the concept of the first segment, the idea that it is a reflection of our values, is a reflection of who we are. And the second segment for today will be all about listening. All right, to the heart of the episode, listening to one another. You heard that right, listening. And yes, we are still discussing the U.S. government. Okay, so the Your Good News podcast is about finding the good. And I strongly believe that our U.S. government can be a force for good, and being a part of the process can be good. But we can't be successful if we don't fully hear one another. So take a moment, turn on the news, and look at what you see, or even just think about it. It's division, it's war, it's the worst side of us. Good news is typically at the end of a local news segment, and it's someone getting a kitten out of a tree. We don't see the good in the world. We don't see the good in our U.S. political process. And I think far too often we speak past each other just as people. And I don't think for 1 second that understanding the functionalities of government will bridge the gap of not listening to one another. Understanding those mechanisms is one step. Listening is the piece that will get us some action, in my opinion. So why bring this up? If you're listening in real time, the election is less than 3 weeks away. And as a collective, as a whole, we are stressed. I think we're stressed about the election. We're stressed about the plot of our future. I think either side of the aisle, either side of the issue or issues or whatever is moving you, I think there is a collective stress. Ads, which we will talk about in a new episode, really get at that hurt part of us, the angry part of us, the area where we want to believe that the other side, the other political party is out to take democracy down and break it. And why does that happen? Because anger is easier to click on. Anger is easier to motivate. But what if we all just took a chance to hear one another out? I'm not saying you have to change your opinion. What I'm saying is a chance to hear one another out and really listen. But what if we didn't listen to that cynical side of us and actually tried to better understand the other side's belief? I think often we hide behind a political party or that identity because it's easier than to pause. It's easier in a world, as we've talked about before, that values speed and efficiency, to not pause and understand. And I can hear you. What about that random insert family member or that coworker that spews hate? Maybe not that person at first, but I think we're going to have to get there. I think we need to start with the random person at the party who maybe doesn't agree with you. Just seek to understand. Seek to ask kind questions. Seek to pause and not to instantly respond with your opinion of what insert policy idea would do. I think giving someone a moment to truly listen and a moment to understand, it can't hurt. It can't. I mean, we haven't been doing it and we're not in a great scenario. And like I said, I'm not trying to get you to switch parties or up in your beliefs, because that is the beauty of this country, is that we are all allowed to have our different beliefs. But what I think our founders believed was that a country has to be built on differences, built on multiple party rule. I think if I could leave you with one thing as we think about listening, why don't we just seek to understand? We seek to at least get to know that other person, because when you humanize that person, you humanize their beliefs, it makes it a lot harder to villainize them. It makes it a lot harder to call names or to go into camps. And well, we've been doing that for a while now, and it hasn't served us. If we truly believe that we want to be a better nation, then we got to stop. We got to listen. We got to seek to understand. That's it for today. Thank you. Thank you again for joining today's episode of the Your Good News podcast. If you haven't, go ahead, hit subscribe where you stream podcasts so that each Thursday you will get to hear some good about the U.S. government. Reach out to me. I'm on Instagram at Katherine Getty. As always, I'd love to hear your feedback on what you'd like to hear more of, or feedback on this episode. And as always, tune in next week to another episode of the Your Good News podcast.